Welcome everybody. We really appreciate you being here this evening to create a sustainable psychedelic practice to amplify your healing impact by Greg Shanken. He is the co-founder of the Colorado Psychedelic Society and also Gloss, which is a web development and marketing firm, and he's going to be sharing his knowledge with all of us here today. Few quick just house rules and a little bit about the Psilocybin Assisted Therapy Association. So my name is Jason, and I am the co-founder of the Psilocybin Assisted Therapy Association, a national nonprofit. We're a volunteer-led nonprofit based in Portland, Oregon. And our mission is to promote the educated and informed use of psilocybin to address the mental health crisis. And part of those efforts is supporting the industry as much as possible, and we need sustainable and well-run organizations to be able to help out our community, and that's what Greg is here today, is to help share his knowledge, which he does have particular knowledge within the psychedelic field, with y'all, so that you can have productive businesses. This meeting is being recorded. And it will be made available on our YouTube channel, and we will post it on Meetup later on. We do have other upcoming trainings coming up. We have a couple that are a continuation of our Bringing Light into the Darkness, where our first one is around the microdosing. Next one will be around discussing around heroic doses and its use, and then following it up with information around therapeutic dosage and lower doses, mini doses for therapeutic intent. So hope you'll continue to come back to these trainings and other ones.
This is our event, so we'll get into it, and I'll tell a little bit about myself. I'm going to keep it brief, and I'll even explain why I'm going to keep it brief. But I empower psychedelic and mental health organizations, practitioners, and businesses to amplify their healing voices through thought leadership, advocacy, nonprofit work, training, web development, and digital marketing. So I want to give Jason a chance to talk about PATA and PFA, and then we'll keep going. So, Jason.
Yeah. Thank you. And our primary goals are to provide educational opportunities to empower everybody that's involved in psilocybin, therapy in particular, but around psychedelic healing, educating and empowering all professionals and the seeker, but ultimately, it's for the seeker's mental health goals. And we provide a series of online educations. We have some conferences and some other events that we'd love for you all to be a part of. We're also launching the Psilocybin Facilitators Association with the intention of it becoming a 501c6, which would be a trade association to advocate for and protect licensed facilitators in the state-regulated program, so that they could have a voice and offer opportunities of joint learning and consultation groups and best practices, and then advocating to the state programs for positive changes on behalf of the facilitators and the clients that you represent. So just an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. And I think this is the second or third event we've done together, and it's just really been a pleasure to work with Jason. He's a pro. He's passionate about the work, so it's been a really good collaboration. And there are other discussions in place between CPS and PATA, and CPS is the Colorado Psychedelic Society. So this is a meetup group, and there are over 250 societies around the world. And the one we have here is obviously within Colorado, and it's for people seeking education, awareness, community, friendship around psychedelics. So you can join our meetup. And what we really need most, of course, we need funding, but everyone asks for that. But we need help. We need volunteers. We've had some people step up from our members, and they're already helping. And even if you have a spare 1 to 2 hours a week, I promise you we can put you to work. We have an unending list of things to do. And especially as we move towards PS 25, we're going to be exhibiting there. We're going to be doing an evening event there. And there is literally, like I said, an endless list of things to do. So please reach out. And I want to give a huge shout out and congratulations to the founder of CPS, Aaron Witter. I met Aaron in ceremony a couple of years ago, and he's a psychedelic coach. He's been serving clients in Colorado since 2023, and he founded CPS after Prop 122 passed, and he His vision's been to work as part of the regulated model that's getting underway. And he was one of the first in the state to earn his psilocybin facilitator license. So that's awesome. Years of work to bring us even to the point where we had that legislation, and now the legislation passed, and now we have facilitators getting their licenses. So it's pretty amazing. He did this through the accelerated pathway licensure training through Intertrek, and he's building a business to within the regulated model to serve clients as a facilitator in Colorado Healing Centers. So that's where you can reach out to learn. Okay. So I like to keep things light as it serves the messages that I'm trying to impart or want to impart. And so this was the prompt I asked before. Why did you choose this path? So kind of revisit that again and think about that as we go through. So this was version 1 of the workshop title. Welcome to the workshop. And that title probably doesn't create too much excitement, kind of boring. Here's version 2. And by the way, I don't read slides word for word unless it makes sense to do so. So I'll tell you all about how my company does all this great stuff, because we're awesome and we have so many great services and we're the best. That probably makes you want to run for the hills. Hopefully no one's doing that yet. I promise it will get better. Here's version 3, grow your psychedelic healing practice. So it's definitely more dialed into the topic, but it doesn't really likely generate too much excitement. I'm just stating what it is. Grow your psychedelic healing practice. And so here's the final version, and this was even too long to put on the meetup, but there's a reason why it's structured this way, and we'll talk about these things. So discover how to create a sustainable psychedelic healing practice by embedding empathy into your brand to eliminate client friction, resonate with your audience, maximize your healing impact, and bring you joy. So hopefully this one resonates a bit more. And some key points here. It has an action-oriented verb, discover. It's talking about results. It's hopefully tying into some of the things that you were reflecting about: empathy, helping people, maximizing impact, and enjoying it. So this is the type of kind of framework that we and I look to share and teach. And so this is what I want you to be thinking about. And this is a slide you're going to see quite frequently through this presentation. Nobody cares about your products except you. This comes from best-selling author David Meerman Scott. And you'll see this a lot because it's really one of the foundational principles that you can ignore at your peril. So with that, let's just jump into the workshop overview and then we'll keep going. So I will start with a little bit about me, but I will keep that very short because this isn't about me. This is about you. And then really get into empathy and why that's your guide and why I wear it as an article of clothing. And then 5 reasons your website is scaring away your best clients, which is what I call impact leaks. And then I want to share some things about how to get started or how to get to the next level. I realize we have different people here, some people just getting started. I think we even actually have some students here, like as in college or grad students. And then I'm sure some students that are going through facilitator training, and then probably some established people that are here out of curiosity or looking to up-level what they're doing. And then a really fun topic I do called Build Your Mycelial Map. Okay. So I'll just start with a little bit about me, short. This is not about me. However, I do feel it's important to share a little bit so you know where I've come from, why I'm here. We're here to talk about business and marketing, but I'm very much in your world, and I've gone through my own and still am in a healing journey with myself. And when I started that journey a little over 3 years ago, it really helped me discover my passion. I was not feeling much passion in my life or career. I've struggled with lifelong depression. I'd been on SSRI meds for a dozen years. I titrated off those meds to start down this path. And a lot of this journey, as you all know, involves getting out of one's comfort zone. And I'll come back to this later, but building our mycelial map so we can connect like this in community and help the psychedelic healing space. So summer of 22, and this was only about 6 months after my entrance into this world, I became an ambassador for Prop on 22, which, as you all know, passed, and it was really a privilege and an honor to be a part of it. Did a lot of get out the vote efforts. We did things like sitting and doing this thousands of times to do text messaging campaigns because it's actually illegal to put a big database in and hit a button. So we sat there and did that. And the bill passed. That's by 53%, which is definitely a landslide in today's political climate. And then Aaron had the foresight to start CPS, and I joined him, and I'm so grateful to him for that. Empathic is a nonprofit I work with. This was the booth that we had at the last MAPS event. And then I also do public speaking on the intersection of business and psychedelics. And so sometimes that means talking about business at a psychedelics event. This was actually talking about psychedelics, or business, excuse me, vice versa. This was talking about psychedelics at a business event, because there are, as many of you know, so many thorny issues around accessibility, reciprocity, respect for Indigenous rights. And so it's important that we have this conversation. So this is with Kevin and Sean, two people behind the bill, and Dinah Lerman, who owns a local ketamine practice. And so this is something I'm definitely passionate about as this whole space grows, because we're trying to fit, ancient practices and ancient medicines into a Western capitalistic framework, and that brings up lots of stuff. I'll just leave it there. So I live in Boulder. This is my family. My kids are older now. I definitely need to update that. We are empty nesters, and in my spare time, I'm a live music guy. I go to lots and lots of live shows. That's me at Red Rocks. And if you ever see me at a show, you'll definitely see me with that disco ball there. So that's it for about me. And again, that just ideally just sets some context for sort of how I got here. So now we'll jump into it. So empathy. So I was actually speaking about this even before I got into this space, and then I guess you could call it a synchronicity. It just aligns so well with us as healers and the healing work we're doing with ourselves and for others. And so really the net is that your online presence must convey that same empathy that brought you to this work. And that's, now you can go back to your prompt in your head. Why did you come here? Why are you doing this work? And I'm sure it comes from a very deep place, most likely starting with your own healing, as it has for me. And so many times I will meet people in this space on Zoom, in person, and pretty much very quickly it's like, you're awesome, you're the real deal. I know you are doing this for the right reasons. I know you're authentic. I know you're loving. I know you're compassionate. I can see it. I can feel it. But then I will go to your website and I will see a huge gap between what I'm seeing and feeling and then what I'm seeing online. And what I'm seeing online is what your prospective customers or clients are seeing online. And so that's where so much of the opportunity is that I'll be talking about tonight. So, and a lot of times I like to kind of use a paradigm of offline. So if you have an office, you might not, but if you do you keep it clean? Do you want people to wait? Do you want people to feel safe and secure? Do you want it to be easy to work with you? And do you want your brand to be reflected? And the answer to all those things is definitely yes. And so those are the things we want to see, among others, in your online world. And so as we get into the discussion of empathy, I'm going to share what I call empathy lenses. So this is different ways to think about empathy as it relates to your branding, messaging, marketing. Everyone who's on this call, I know you are full of empathy, but now I want you to think about it and look through some of these, what I call lenses, as you think about your online brand, whether or not you even have one. So again, different people here might not have an online brand and others do. So the first one is kind of the biggie. It's how will you solve my problem and make my life better, right? So if I'm seeking any kind of product or service, a restaurant, legal services, or healing services, that's the question that I'm asking myself. That's the question that you need to be thinking about in terms of what your prospective client is asking themselves. Okay. And so that's one lens. Because basically, when you're searching for a solution or I'm searching for a solution, I'm asking myself, what's in it for me? And that comes across as selfish, but it is selfish, but not in the negative sense. I'm seeking a solution. If I need an architect, right, I need to know how that's going to help create a beautiful house for me, right? And so this is what your prospective clients are asking themselves, consciously or unconsciously. They're suffering, right? They're struggling. And so this is an empathy lens. And so it's what's in it for me and how will you help me be happier, healthier, wealthier, have better relationships, meaning, purpose in my life, you know, many others, but these are some of the big ones, right? And so again, this is a lens that I want you to start thinking about as a mindset and, keeping that lens on, hopefully after tonight, as you go back and think about your brand, look, ideally enhance your brand and take some of these strategies and tactics that I'll be sharing. So this is another lens, which is how will you help me achieve significance and or contribution. So significance has sort of an undertone of ego to it, and that's okay. We all have egos. And so if you can help answer that question or help a prospective client how your work is going to help them achieve significance, that's an empathy lens. And same with contribution. So a few examples. Someone struggling with depression, and that's something I can relate to in my experience. So if I'm not being debilitated by depression or anxiety, then I can advance and generate more abundance for my family, right? That's significance. And I get to say I got promoted and I'm doing better, right? And that's okay. There's some ego there, but that's all right. That's significance. As far as contribution, if I'm not being debilitated by depression or anxiety, I can advance at work and help more people through my superpower, whatever that is, legal services, teaching, nonprofit work. So through significance and contribution, basically, I can live my best life. And so again, this is a lens, so you can think about how to answer those questions for your prospective clients. And the more you can do that, the more that's going to, that empathy is going to be felt. And then the more likely you are to engage, or that client is going to want to engage with you. So those are some of those lenses. The next thing I want to talk about, because I hear this come up a lot, is especially in the healing space. Also, I come from a healing background. My parents are retired. My father was a psychiatrist, mother psychologist. My wife is a health and wellness coach specializing in executive functioning. My sister is a social worker. So I grew up in this world before I embarked in the psychedelic healing journey. And so I know that it can be, this can be a sensitive thing, right? You need to acquire clients. You need to attract clients, engage clients, because you need to generate what we call money to pay for things, right? That's just what it is. And so at the same time, many therapists, practitioners, healers I meet feel nervous about this, right? Selling, fear, being pushy. And so this is also, again, what I'm gonna have you go back to that prompt, like what brought you to this work? Why are you doing this? And the more you can feel into that empathy, compassion, love, sure, some other words and feelings that I haven't named, and you're coming from a place of authenticity, and that's being reflected in your online brand, then you're not going to come across as self-promoting or pushy. And actually, I have a couple anecdotes to share there. So I've had a lot of benefits from ketamine. And the owner of the practice I go to says that on his gravestone, he wants it to say, I saved 100,000 lives. I mean, that's coming from a really deep place, but that's also significance and contribution. Kind of going back to the previous slide, right? Like that's pretty significant. I saved 100,000 lives. It's also a tremendous amount of contribution. And so if you stay in alignment with your values, then you're never going to come across that way. And I'll share that this is something that I think about as we market these events. So I know, and I think all of you know, that the more you poke people and say show up, the more they're going to show up. So I think we send 2 or 3 or 4 messages about these events. And even knowing everything that I'm sharing with you, it's like, you don't want to piss people off. You don't want to, but I know that if we just send one email out, a lot fewer people will show up. If we send 3 or 4, more people will show up. If we send 29, then everyone's going to unsubscribe. So there is a fine line. And same with reminders. So for a free event, we get about a 40 to 50% turnout. And that's fine. We know that. But really the bigger point here is that if you're coming from an authentic place of integrity, then people are going to feel that. So moving on. Okay, so you'll see this slide come sprinkled throughout, as I said, so nobody cares about your products except you. And then we'll get into some empathy stuff here. So the goal in branding, website design is to reduce friction. It's impossible to eliminate all of it, but the more you can reduce it, the better. And also when I'm doing these talks and even meeting with clients one-on-one, I always ask, put on your consumer hat. So I'm talking to you as a business owner, practitioner, but you're a consumer. So try to go back and forth between those hats. You don't have to change your hat like I do. But when you're searching for something, consciously or unconsciously, you're making decisions along the way, and you're asking yourself, should I keep paying attention or should I leave, get on with my day? So these are a whole bunch of things that cause friction. There are a whole range of other ones. But this kind of shows you a lot of things you know about. But now with the context of reducing friction, this next slide's exactly the same. I just like that image, so that's where we're going. All right, so this is the next part here, and I call it 5 reasons why your website is scaring away your best clients, also known as impact leaks. When I used to lecture about these topics before, when I was in my previous life, I called them revenue leaks. But impact leaks are revenue leaks. I just like the term impact leaks better now that I'm working in this space. But if you have problems, issues with your branding that are causing friction and causing people to leave and not come back, you're losing a chance to create an impact. And if you're in a for-profit business, you've lost an opportunity to generate revenue. If you're in a nonprofit business, to generate donations. But I like to call it impact leaks. So here we go. So by the way, I'm gonna kind of go pretty quickly at this point because I have a lot to cover. I even added some new stuff. I've done these trainings a lot, but I always keep adding more, and I want to leave plenty of room for Q&A. So the first impact leak is, can I find you? Now, some of this may not apply if you work from home or virtually, but some of you do have offices or will have offices. And so you do need to be found. And so when you're searching for a local business, I'm sure you've all seen this kind of layout. This is called Google Maps, and it only shows the top 3 results. People can click more places, put your consumer hat on. How often do you do that? Not all the time, right? If you're searching for a lawyer, maybe yes. If it's a restaurant, maybe no. So these top 3 get 70 to 80% of the clicks. Super important to be there. And what you need to do is have your address on your website, and it's got to be registered with Google. And you then have to submit those to all the directories. Some of this stuff I call boring but important. So there are a whole bunch of directories to get these submitted to. I'll show you a resource to do that pretty easily, because doing it yourself is definitely a sludge, although you absolutely can do that. And setting this up is called your Google profile, what you see there. And once you have your profile set up and submitted to directories, then you want to start publishing content to your Google profile, and it can be very simple. It's just I thought I had a slide on that. Yeah, it's just an image, a blurb, and that's it. You only have to do it once a week. It takes 5 minutes, and it's not that eyeballs necessarily will be seeing this, but Google will be seeing this, and this helps your Google Maps rankings. So these are the takeaways. Add your full street address to your website footer. Don't just put Bend, Oregon. It's got to be your full address. or else Google doesn't know where you are. Claim your Google business profile, submit them. Here's a service called yext.com. I think it's about $49 a month. Whenever I mention prices, I don't overstate or understate, dollars are dollars. That might be out of one's budget. I get it. But this is a place you can pay to do it and then publish to Google Business Profile. Okay, so this one is a big one. Are you going to make me wait? And this speaks to website speed. Put on your consumer hat, click on a link, you go to a site, it takes 9 seconds to load. If it's something you're really, really, really interested in, you might wait. Or if a best friend said go to that site or business, you might wait because you've been recommended. But if you're coming in cold, then the stats basically show that after 3 or 4 seconds, so bounce rate over here reflects people who leave the site right away. So after 4 seconds, you've lost a quarter of your traffic. 6, 7 seconds, you've lost half of your traffic. So think about that. You get 100 visits a month, that turns into 50. It's a big deal. The other thing that many people don't know is that this also impacts your Google search ranking. So Google will penalize your site if it loads slowly. So it's both of those reasons that are really, really important. And the analogy I like to use is a baseball one. So, baseball, you get an at-bat, but if somebody goes to your site and doesn't wait for it to load, that's akin to you're walking up to the plate and you fall over and twist your ankle before you even get a swing. You're not even getting a swing. There's no, people are just not getting to your site. Okay, so this is a really big deal. And I'll give a few resources for you to check your website speed, and you'll see scores out of 100. These are a little harder to fix. And by the way, I'm going to share low cost, no cost resources throughout. And also I share a lot of things that you can take with you, low hanging fruit. And so you'll see and hear a lot of those. If your site is slow, this is a little bit harder to fix as a layman, but still you need to be aware of it and at least know that you have that problem for you, so then you can fix it. Okay, so this is impact leak number 2. Now, think of this as a buyer's journey. I found you, I waited for the site to load, now I'm at your site. This is now where it starts to get back into the empathy piece and friction and impact leaks. So impact leak number 3, how are you going to help me, right? That's what you're asking as a consumer, no matter what product or service you're searching for. What's in it for me? Nobody cares about your products except you. And so I kind of joke and say in a snarky way, the world's worst headline, and no offense if anyone has this headline, but if you do, change it, like now. Welcome to your business. Welcome to Mary's Flower Shop. Welcome to ABC Consulting. That's not a headline. And I say kind of in a snarky way, I'm talking to you one-on-one or with clients, I'm very nice about it, but I say, you don't need to welcome me to your business. You need to tell me how you're going to help me solve my problem. And think about it when you're walking down Main Street, right? If it's a pizza place that says, welcome to Joe's Pizza, the welcome sign's not outside. The welcome sign's inside. If you've walked inside, then it's time to be welcomed, right? But if I'm at your website, I'm not in your store yet. I'm not in your orbit yet. I'm just literally looking at a website that just loaded. So I don't need to be welcomed. I need to be told very quickly and succinctly how you're going to help me. So if you have that type of headline, you definitely want to change it, and I'll share some ways to do that. And so then we get into a discussion of features versus benefits, and anyone who remembers Marketing 101 from college might remember some of these. So features versus benefits, this is a really big deal. And so I'll start to share what that means and how you can apply it. So a feature, there's different ways of thinking about it, but a feature is what something is, and a benefit is what something does. Another way to think about it is features tell, but benefits sell. And so a great anecdote that I heard years ago, I wish I made it up and I don't know who to attribute it to because I don't remember, but you don't go to the store to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit. That's a feature. You go because you need a 1/4-inch hole. That's the benefit. And so the way to get to the benefit to get to the essence or the kernel of that benefit is keep asking, why is that? That is the fill in the blank. Why is that important? So let's just go back to the drill bit analogy. So I need a 1/4 inch drill bit because I need a 1/4 inch hole. Well, why do I need a hole? So hang a mirror. Well, why is that important? So I can see myself. Why is that important? So I make sure I look good, to get a job interview, to get a higher paying job, to generate more abundance for my family so I can travel more, pay for my kids' college education, whatever the case. That's one example, but you get the point. And really, most roads, most of those hops lead back to things like happiness, meaning, significance, contribution, impact, joy. And so I'm getting that 1/4 inch drill bit to be happy, right? To get a mirror, to look good, to get a better job, da 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 da. However, if a hardware store said to you, buy this drill bit to be happy, that wouldn't really resonate. There's too many hops to get there. The cool thing about working in the healing space is you're way closer sort of in that pyramid, right? If I'm struggling with depression, well, if you can help me solve that, well, why is that important? So I can, get out of bed and get back to my life and be happy and engaged. And it's pretty easy to get from a place of struggle and challenge to that, essence or kernel of happiness, meaning, joy, etc. So think about that. And that really lays the groundwork for getting to those benefits. And so going back to that world's worst headline. So welcome to Bob's Healing Center. If anyone's named Bob on the call, then hope you don't have a healing center. But this is what I kind of snarkily said before is the world's worst headline. And this is going to lead into what creates a better headline. So psychedelic healing services. So you welcomed me, which I really don't need to be welcomed. Psychedelic healing services, that is what you do, if that's what you do, but that's a feature. But you haven't told me how you're going to help me, and you're not resonating with me, and you're not showing that empathy that I know you have, or else you wouldn't be on this call. But these are the themes that I really want to convey and hopefully sink in tonight. So let's look at transforming your life with psychedelic healing, right? So instead of just psychedelic healing, it's transforming your life. That's something that most people can resonate with. I would almost say pretty much anyone who's struggling could resonate with, right? You need to transform your life. If other methods haven't been effective, discover how PAP can help you heal depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction, and then a call to action. Schedule your free consultation call. I'm not claiming this is the perfect headline, and I do try to keep things a bit generic on these calls, but it's to prove the point or illustrate the point. So you have a much more benefit-oriented headline. You're now explaining how that's going to happen. You're also saying to that prospective client, many of whom, as you know, have not had success with other healing modalities, pharmaceutical meds, etc. And we'll get into this, having a call to action. So this is kind of like a best practices in your hero image, which is what people see before they start scrolling down the page. Benefit-oriented headline, benefit-oriented sub-headline, call to action. And then I love to share this example. So it says restoring the rhythm of your life. And think about what kind of a business that could be suited for. Restoring the rhythm of your life. I mean, it's pretty, comes across as pretty heart-centered to me. Like it kind of speaks to me. But here is the type of business that uses that. It's a collision company. So I love this example. This is a local place. They might be national, a bunch in Boulder, I know. Think about when you need car repair or collision, right? There's literally nothing good about it. Nothing. It's time, it's money, it's hassle, and then you get your car back. And the only thing that's different, besides that your car is fixed, is that you have less money in your bank account. There's nothing good about it. But this company put a lot of thought into how they could convey those benefits. right? So it's restoring the rhythm of your life. They can't really make it better, but they can restore it. They can bring you back to where you were before, of course, minus, some dollars, but that's to be expected in any business. So I love that example. And, think about that just in the context of what I'm sharing here about benefits, headlines, engaging content, etc. Okay, so how are you going to help me? We're going to stay on that topic, but we're going to go into a different part of it, which is your messaging should be filled with you focused copy. So you and yours versus I, we, us. This doesn't mean that there's no place for I, we, us. If it's talking about my bio, I'm going to say I and we is our company. Fine. But I see so many brands where the entire homepage is just says we, I, us, and also uh, third party references like we help clients. So instead of we help you. So this is a very easy fix. Very easy fix. You just go through all of your content, web, email, printed. Well, printed, you might be upset because you got to do some reprinting, but we live in a digital world, social, and just audit it. Anywhere you can change logically, that makes sense from I, we, us to you, yours, you're going to have an instant lift in engagement and empathy because now you're talking to me, and that's because nobody cares about your products except you. And I don't care what the name of your business is really. I'm asking myself, can you help me? How? Help me achieve significant contribution? How are you going to make me happier, healthier, etc. As I go through, I do show some examples, but they're always with industries that are way outside the healing space because anyone doing healing work, I never want to pick on. So even if the websites are nothing you'd want to look at, I certainly don't want to bring them onto a call like this. So I share examples of, just kind of general industries. So filled with you focused copy, you don't have to read this, but this is just an example of I, we, us, not to mention that, the formatting and layout looks bad, but this is from a gate company. When you see me look over there, sometimes it's my other screen. Okay, so we're still on how you're going to help me. And here's another really great way to do it. And that's by creating user personas. And so some of you might know about this concept. A lot of people say, oh, I know what that is, but I've never done it. Or I know what that is and I know I should do it, but I haven't done it. Or I've heard about it, but it just kind of sounds corny. And hopefully you're going to walk away not thinking any of those things. And then this is something you can go and do tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to show you a very easy way to do it later on this call. But basically, you're creating these fictional personas, and this will help you show that empathy, communicate benefits, engage with users. So I'll show you an example. And again, don't be overwhelmed. I'm going to show you a simple way to do this. So user persona, you're actually giving that person an image, an age, where they live, marital status, a little bio, what they do, goals, frustrations. So you're creating this persona that represents someone that might be a prospective or ideally an actual client of yours. Okay, so hold on to that thought. I'm going to show you a super easy way to do it. And generally, there's not just one. You're going to have 3 to 5 or so. You're certainly not going to have 20, or if you think you have 20, then you need to sort of narrow your focus. So when you create these, and you not just create them and set them in a file on your computer, but actually come back to them. Now you're talking to Ted, who has these goals, frustrations, pain points that you are going to speak to so that Ted feels like you are answering those questions, how you're going to help him and showing him that empathy. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is, so now I've answered the question as the prospective client, how are you going to help me? But now I'm saying, well, are you the right person to help me? Are you credible? Do I want to work with you? You may have told me, yes, you can help me, but okay, can you though? And so this gets into a whole range of things, and I'm just going to hit some of the high points. So hero image, I mentioned before, that's and by the way, I'm going to just use the term user. I know that sounds generic. but sometimes it's faster to say, prospective client, etc. But when I say user, I say it with the most compassion that we're talking about people who are seeking help, clients, people who are struggling, but I'll just say user. So what the user sees before they scroll down, headline, subheadline, call to action, the content on your site, social content, your credentials, credible testimonials. So by that, I mean, you have a bunch of testimonials on your site and says, Joe from Idaho and Sarah from Pennsylvania. Those aren't generally credible, even if they are real. I think we all know what credible testimonials look like. And a word about social content, because I see this a lot with clients or on sites that I look at. You absolutely should be highlighting your social channels if they actually have content that is quality and recent. So I'm sure you've clicked on a Facebook link and then the last post is from 1827. What do you think as the consumer, right? So that brand has lost credibility. So it's okay if you don't have Instagram, Facebook, or any social, but don't put a link on your site that takes people there with one post or the last post from 3 years ago. And anyone remember MySpace? So, they disappeared decades ago. And obviously that's a silly example. No one's going to put MySpace, but you get the point. You want to cast the best light on yourself. Even if you have, let's say you have 20 blog posts on your site and you just haven't had time to update it recently. Well, you know what? Unless it's a blog post that's speaking about something timely, you can go in and change the dates as long as it's done with integrity and also common sense. You're not going to change the date on something that's referring to something 5 years ago. So there are, ways around this, and just really think about that because this is your credibility. Put your consumer hat on. How do you feel when you see an old social media account, outdated, or no content at all? Okay. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, but creating, that's another part too, is it's if you're going to be using social media, it's not just creating content, it's having a really good profile, a really well thought out profile. So this is mine for LinkedIn. I'll come back to that. Now, also on the topic of credibility, I mentioned before is social proof is the sort of marketing term, but many ways of having social proof. And one of the biggest ones is testimonials. And I know from speaking to knowing people in the space, the concern is, well, people that are struggling, people that are getting help through psychedelics, are they going to want to post a public review? They probably won't. Well, I beg to differ. It might be harder than if you owned a restaurant, but I just pulled up a few examples at random. I don't have a relationship with these organizations, but I just literally did this today. Service center in Portland, 48 5-star reviews. So if you have 500 clients, does that mean you're going to have 500 reviews? No, but they got 46 reviews. And then here's a ketamine practice in my area, 104 reviews. So yes, you can get reviews. I think it speaks for itself. Okay, so also along or in the topic of are you credible, is thinking about specializing in a niche. And so more experienced practitioners, I'm sure a lot of you have done that. Newer ones, maybe not, and that's okay. If you're newer to this, you're saying, well, I don't really know what niche to focus on, that's okay. But I do want you to be thinking about this. And from my own experience, I've owned an agency for over 12 years, but it wasn't until I started working in the psychedelic space that A, I felt passionate about it, and B, started moving now really 100% into this space. And I could talk for 15 minutes about what a big difference that makes. But in terms of credibility, authenticity, industry knowledge, etc., this will help you with that credibility. And so these are some different ways that you can focus or think about focusing. And as I said before, if you're not there yet, that's fine. And maybe you have a more general focus, and if that's working for you, that's also fine. And maybe you have a mental health practice where you have therapists, practitioners that specialize in each of these things. But this is another way, just as reference, to think about conveying that credibility, because you'll be speaking to those specific problems. Okay, so now we'll move into design quality. So I'm just going to share some, painfully painful examples of poor design, things like text that blends into the background, things like imagery and text that all blends together. Some of this is, I picked these because they're painfully obvious, but I want you to be thinking about these and looking at your own design, and we'll talk about ways that can be improved. This goes back to that Gate company. So, text that's smushed together, busy. Again, I think we all have been in the web world long enough to kind of know. You kind of know it when you see it. A well-designed site, non-well-designed site. But hopefully this is just giving you some sparks to think about and go back. That's my goal for you, is go back to your brands and think about all these things and look at all these things, and definitely sharing some low-hanging fruit here, some things you can action, low cost or no cost. Credibility also is about, organizations you're involved with, creating content, podcast speaking, thought leadership. And then the last one, telling your story, and this could be a whole webinar course on its own, storytelling. I think most or all of us here know the power of storytelling. And it's really important, I feel, to tell your story for your brand. And that means being vulnerable. And that might be out of your comfort zone. So I'm certainly not commanding you to do it. All these are your choices, but the more you can get comfortable with that, the more it's going to resonate. It's people feel that, people see that, and that's showing empathy. And that also kind of gets back to the niche specialization, right? If you have someone that struggle with depression, PTSD, and you're speaking about that, then obviously if I'm having those same struggles, that's going to speak to me. So all kinds of, you can find lots of information about how to tell your story and ways of doing that. But I did want to highlight that one because that will help convey your credibility. And yeah, okay, cool. I thought I had one right there. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the fifth one and then get into some of the other topics I talked about. Is it easy to engage with you? So I found your site. I've waited for it to load. You've answered how you're going to help me. You've answered, are you the right person to help me? Now, okay, I want to reach out. Is it going to be easy to work with you? And, or not necessarily easy to work with you, but easy to engage, get in touch with you. So a bunch of ways to do that. One is having several to many calls to action on your site. So you see here, contact me, more info, go deeper, contact me. I don't want to say that you can't have too many calls to action, but err on the side of more versus less. I don't have a magic number for you, but some home pages I see have none, or maybe at the very bottom is a contact us. And here's how to think about it. Again, put your consumer hat on. When someone comes to your site, you don't know exactly what their disposition is. Right? You don't know what they're seeking necessarily. And so you need to think of your homepage as a mini tour of your business. Different sections that apply to different people or different needs. So a section could have testimonials, another section might have FAQ, another section, organizations that you serve. And I'm not sure why this annotation showed up there. But these calls to action will speak to different people based on where they are, and then give them the opportunity to go deeper, just like that call to action says, go deeper. Okay. I don't want to interrupt the flow to get rid of this annotation, so apologies for that. We'll just keep rolling here. Okay, so also along the lines of, is it easy to engage with you? Forms. So consumer hat again. Have you ever gone to a site and seen a form like this with 90 different fields, and a form that you never, ever really want to fill out? And this is a huge, friction creator. Now, some types of businesses need forms this long. If it's a bank application, then obviously, yes, you need to have that. But if you're just looking for someone to reach out to you, to schedule a call, send you a note. Because then once that happens, then once you connect, that's where your magic comes in. That's where they're going to see, feel that empathy on a person-to-person basis. But up to this point, they still haven't met you. They're starting to feel good about meeting you. And now you got to kind of take it to that next step. So they call, schedule, etc. So keep your forms as simple as possible. And the rule of thumb is only ask for the information you need. If I'm a mortgage broker, yes, I need your social security number, earnings, yada, yada. But if I'm just looking for you to reach out, you really only need email address. But most simple forms you see ask for first name and email, just so you can at least say, hi, Don. So that's fine. But unless you need more, don't ask for more, or make what you're asking for not required. So I'll show you on the form that we have, and you can go here, glosstech.io/empathy. This QR code will take you there. So this form is very simple. It's first name, email, phone is optional, website is optional. And it also tells you that step 1 of 2, you're 50% done. And this is page 2. Just check off what you're interested in. Again, not required. Click submit. That's it. And that's just a little more because we're here on this call and now you've gotten to know me a little bit. And so if you're interested, you would, take 3 extra seconds to fill out that form. But if, on your website, if it's reach out to me, first name, email, unless for some reason, and if you have that reason, fine, but otherwise, don't ask. Okay. Yeah, so the next one here is accessibility. So this is actually legally required for the ADA, American Disabilities Act, to make your site ADA compliant. And you've probably seen this on a growing number of websites. It does make you compliant. It also shows empathy because you're obviously addressing that type of a user. And it's very easy to add, and I'll give you the resource after this to do that. Okay, and then finally on this topic, I believe, is it easy to engage with you? So this is scheduling. Now, you might not want people to just directly schedule. That's your decision. But if you do, then I recommend Calendly. You've probably seen it because it all kind of looks this look and feel. But a couple of extra tips. First of all, if you don't know Calendly and other types of tools like this, they integrate with your actual calendar. So only the days and time slots you have open will show as open. A lot of them have lots of flexibility here. And my tip is to add additional context here. So you've probably seen a lot of these where it just says, schedule a call. And you can do that, but I recommend adding more because this is the point where someone is either going to follow through and schedule or not. So this is another point of friction. Like the friction never goes away until they're your client. So add more benefits here. Reach out to schedule so we can talk about your challenges and we can talk about a plan that might make sense for your, your healing process. You get the idea. So point being, don't just stick with the generic content here. Add content that conveys that empathy. Okay, so these are the resources. Accessibility is the tool. It is $49 a month, which is not nothing. I get it. It is legally required. Colorado recently, about 3-4 months ago, just passed a state bill around that on top of the federal bill. There might be other states that have this too. I don't know. But that's the resource. It's super easy to do. It's one piece of code. If you work with someone or you have, kind of basic web skills, you can add that to your site. And you guys got to try to help me and tell me this little blue line on there is okay, because I don't want to stop and get rid of it. So hopefully that's okay. Thumbs up. Yes. Okay. Blue line on the screen. Okay. Thanks, Scott. Okay. So these are the action items I have for you here. And so those are the 5 reasons your website is scaring away your best clients, customers. There are more, but these are some of the big ones that kind of take you through that user journey of can I be found to am I going to now reach out to you? Okay, so now I want to share some tools and resources around how do I get started or up level. So I'm just going to share some real straightforward resources here. Web development, you probably heard of resources like Squarespace, Wix are probably the two biggest on the DIY, do it yourself, build your own site. Resources, big benefits there, price and control. You're building your own site, you're not relying on anyone else. They're generally structured for people with average tech skills. Having said that, I've met people that say, oh man, I really have had trouble with these. That's not to bash these tools, but it's a do-it-yourself tool, so you're doing it yourself. But they get a lot of people off the ground. And then, we do work with a lot of clients that are kind of ready to take that and up level into what we use, which is WordPress. But this is definitely, good DIY resources. If you're looking for freelance work, Upwork is a marketplace where you can put out a, job description or project description. You'll get quotes from all over the world. So that's a good one. We're a full service agency. We build sites from the ground up. Definitely the cost is higher. Domains are pretty much a commodity, but Namecheap is a good one. Canva, many of you are probably aware of, free to $10 to $20 a month. You can create a lot of your own designs, banners, social media. There's tons of templates. Really good tool for, DIY, really good tool. And then if you're looking for logos, so this is a really good resource called 99 Designs. So it's crowdsourced. So you put up a description of what you want your logo to be, and you'll get bids, not bids, but actual designs submitted from all over the world. When you take that and bring it down to, I think, 3 finalists, and then your finalists, and then you get some back and forth with them. It's called 99 Designs because their starting package is $99. Maybe it's gone up. But that's a good one. I mean, my agency, we sell logos, but we charge more than they do, and I'm happily recommend a service like this. I'm going to talk about AI and ChatGPT in about a moment or so. Okay, so what about getting a domain? So I remember when .coms first came out, and then .net was looked at as kind of like the lesser than. Here we are 30 years later, and there are actually now, this number's outdated, over 1,200 TLDs, top level domains. That's everything after the dot. So .academy, .college, .courses, .degree, .love, .healing, pretty much everything. So if you go to Namecheap, other places do this too. We use Namecheap, and you click on beast mode, then it's basically a little tool that helps you find a good domain with a different type of TLD. I mean, you might be able to find a .com also, but of course, a lot of the quote good ones are taken. And we are at a point now where enough of these other TLDs are sort of in, the masses, that people don't look down on them. I mean, I don't, and I feel professionally with clients that people don't, because enough of them are out there. So if you can't get, your dream.com, check .love, fill in the blank. So just check that out, and you should be able to get a really good domain name with a different TLD, and it'll be just fine. All right, I'm going to go pretty fast on this, and it's a little bit about AI. I'm sure some of you are AI experts. Some of you haven't even started with it. And so first of all, before I go further about AI, I absolutely do not recommend or advocate that AI replaces humans in terms of content. Think of it as a helper, an assistant. I heard on a webinar several months ago, what if AI could just help you achieve 20% more productivity? Who wouldn't want a tool like that, right? Even before AI, we wanted have tools like that. So it's not, can AI create my whole content plan and I press a button and it goes onto my blog? Especially not in this space, right? There's too much nuance to it, too much of your own personal voice, bringing in that empathy. Having said that, it can be really helpful just to get you started. So here, list of psychedelic blog topics. These are pretty good topics. So if you're like writer's block, what do I write about? Well, these are some decent topics, right? Write a 500-word blog post on psychedelics and integration. I won't expect you to read this, but You could type this in the ChatGPT. Like, it's pretty good. Is it perfect? No. Does it need to be? No. But will it save you time as a starting point before you bring in your human voice, accuracy, etc.? Absolutely. Write the content for an About Us page for a psychedelic healing practice. About us, our vision, what sets us apart. It's pretty good. Pretty good. You're going to take it from pretty good and make it awesome and aligned with your unique voice. If I'm saying that repeatedly, it's because it's important for my own credibility that I'm not advocating you just copy and paste this stuff. Put your own thought into it. What's the difference between ketamine infusion therapy and CAP? Again, it was, really good answer. And now I get back to the user personas that I showed you before. This is something that we actually used to charge for. We still can, but I say to clients, use ChatGPT. Create a user persona for someone seeking help with depression. And this took 10 seconds, as ChatGPT generally does. Sarah Thompson, her background. This is basically spit out what I showed you before. Mental health, triggers, support system, hobbies, technology, psychographics, needs and goals. It's pretty darn good. And by the way, these user personas, you're not publishing them, you're not showing them to the world. So these, the ChatGPT output can take you possibly 100% there. You might look at it and say, yeah, that's the kind of client that I'm looking to engage with and attract. So that's the thing about user personas. It's really for your eyes only. So you can just create these very easily, pain points, how to help, and a couple of little parting tips on ChatGPT. Some of you who live and breathe it might be like, yeah, I got that. But get into ChatGPT, start playing with it. There's no right, you can't mess up. Just play around with it. Pin it to your browser. Here's a big challenge. Use it instead of Google for a week. That sounds scary. Give it a try. Try for a day. But here's a cool little way to just pin it to your browser. This is Chrome. But basically, open up ChatGPT, click pin, and then it just stays on your browser with some of your favorite other pins. There's LinkedIn, there's Gmail. And so then it's just right in front of you. So there's my AI piece. Obviously, there could be, can spend hours on that. But now we get into some more of the fun stuff, because a lot of what I've shared is tactics, tools, little tips and tricks, and that stuff's all fine and good. Hopefully really helpful. But now I want to talk about kind of the more human side of it, thought leadership, creating your own significance. Yes, there's some ego there, but significance in a way that serves and does provide that contribution and does help you amplify your healing voice. And so I'm sure a lot of you know that there are a lot of challenges with social networks and paid advertising networks with respect to psychedelics, especially people who I know, some of whom I think are on this call, who have, they're in the medicine space. I'm talking about medicine products that can be sold. And the thing about that is you need to know what we're dealing with. We're dealing with social networks. They own your content. They own your Instagram account, not you. And if you're looking to do a paid campaign, they have the people that are going to look at that, approve it or not. And my recommendation on the paid side is not to waste your time playing a cat and mouse game, like misspelling psychedelics by using a 3 instead of an E, an exclamation point. It might work for a day or 2 or 3, but ultimately it's not. You're going to get shut down. And so you're just getting a very short-term hit from that. With social media, obviously, lean into that and leverage social media however you can, but know that there's a risk. I get asked a lot, well, how can you help me eliminate the risk? What's the magic word or words not to use? I can't tell you. No one, if someone did, they're not being, they're being disingenuous, because there's so many factors. A lot of it is, who's sitting in the call center somewhere and deciding what to do. I've seen 2 separate identical ad campaigns. One gets approved, one doesn't. So there's too many variables. So yeah, certainly lean into social media. But the only thing that you own is your name, your brand, your email list. So obviously I advocate for creating your own email list. That can't be taken away. And you can't be taken away from you. So this speaks to all different ways of starting with getting out of your comfort zone. For some of you, this might not involve getting out of your comfort zone. I'm an introvert, and I've had to really push myself to get out of my comfort zone as I kind of amplify my voice in this space, which for me is only a little over 3 years old. Um, and I'll talk about why this is so important in a minute, but first, a little bit of context there. One thing most, if not all, the people on this call, anyone that's done medicine journeys, psychedelic journeys, right? It's all about getting out of your comfort zone. There's kind of no way around that. So when you're at a trade show and you're nervous to walk up to someone and say hi, or if you have a speaking opportunity and you're nervous to raise your hand and say, I'll do it, think back to your healing journey, right? Like, what's harder, going up to someone and saying hi, or, a 7-hour medicine journey where you're purging and crying? Speak from experience. So think about that as you think about, bringing your voice into the world and getting out of your comfort zone. And one thing that I love to do is cold plunging. And so I never want to get into that cold plunge. Ah, man, I don't want to, but then I get in there and I do it. And every time I do it, even though I wouldn't necessarily say it gets easier, but I know I'm more confident in myself that I can do it. And then when I'm out in the real world, I say, well, I just did that cold plunge, so I can definitely have this tough conversation, vice versa. That's just like on a small level. We're talking about, medicine work. It's much bigger than that. So all of this really is to set the stage, or to inspire you, ideally, to get out of your comfort zone in a way that supports your own, personal branding, voice. And the beautiful thing about working in this space is that we all want to help each other, right? So it's not the dog eat dog mentality of other industries, right? So walking up to someone at Maps, um, they want to meet you, not just to sell you stuff. I mean, they want to meet you because you're awesome and they're awesome, and you're both working to serve this space. So think about that as well. We don't see each other as competitors. And that's exactly why, like, these amazing calls come together, collaborating with people like Jason and Pata and CPS and Aaron. So I had another good one to share. Okay, I think I had slide out of order, so I'll come back to it. Hopefully it showed up. All right, so getting out of your comfort zone. These are some ways to do it. Join meetups, join societies. You can join newsletters, click on everything. Just get out there. And this is what I did. Okay, so I came out of my first medicine retreat, January 22, and I became fascinated by what just happened. And I just started devouring everything I got my hands on. That's what led me to get involved as an ambassador for Prop 122. Go to trade shows and meet people. So if you're walking around a trade show and you're like, oh man, I don't want to walk, like, that's when you got to push yourself and get out of your comfort zone. LinkedIn is huge. We could do a whole class on that. Another one I'll just mention, if you're interested in speaking, is Toastmasters. So it's a nonprofit that's been around for over 100 years. There's chapters all over the world. There's 4 in Boulder, and Boulder is not a big town. You can attend as a guest for free, and then it's really $100 a year. Just a really good place and space to hone your speaking skills. Even if you're not looking to do public speaking in front of 1,000 people, it will help you be on a podcast. It will actually even help you communicate with clients, and it just helps you become a better communicator. So this is also under the umbrella of building your mycelial map, and I'm going to hurry through the rest so we have time for Q&A. I'll just share my little mini mycelial map. So I told you I met Aaron at a retreat, and we were in a psychedelic healing community, and well, we weren't. I was in it, and I really felt inspired to share it with everyone in the group. And it was a nonprofit, so it wasn't like I was trying to sell anything. But I remember I was nervous about standing up and doing that. I was nervous about even asking the guide if it was appropriate. And this was after a night of purging and crying. And so the night I just came out out of was 1,000 times harder than just standing up and talking about this awesome nonprofit community I was in. But I did, and that's where Aaron joined the group, and then Aaron co-founded CPS, and then asked me to be a co-founder. And then also he was in another training program, and I asked him what they were teaching in terms of everything I'm talking about tonight, and he said nothing, not in a negative way. It just wasn't part of the curriculum. And then that's when I first did my first training like this, and that was over 2 years ago. Now I've done this, many, many times for many schools, and so here we are. And I had to get out of my comfort zone at every step of this process, especially that very first webinar I did. I was super freaking nervous about it, and so this speaks to getting out of your comfort zone. If you're saying, okay, this all sounds great, like I'm just going to tell you, like, if you're like, hey, how do I expand my mycelium map? How do I get out there? Just join us. Join us here at CPS. We'll give you stuff to do. You'll be part of CPS. We have over 1,200 members now. There's plenty to do. So if you're like, how do I tap in? There's plenty of ways to tap in. This is definitely a good one. LinkedIn, super quick on this. Just read this yourself because I want to get to Q&A. But these are some ways to start to lean into LinkedIn. It's incredibly powerful. I'll just mention one thing here. Useaware.co is a tool I just started using. It basically aggregates feeds from LinkedIn. So you can upload, 50 to 100 people you're following, influencers, etc. And it brings them into one portal. So it's very easy to just see a stream of posts that you can reply to. So you don't have to be creating your own content. It's good to do that. You don't have to be sending out 1,000 message requests a day or a connection request. That's good too. Maybe not 1,000 a day. But this is just a good way to join the conversation and be involved in other people's conversations. And that will start to build your own voice. So really good tool. This was my profile that I showed before. Definitely spend some time thinking about it. The design, the look and feel, the benefits, the words. Yeah, this was the slide that I meant to show before when we talk about competition. I love this example from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Mocha Joe has this coffee shop, and Larry gets angry at Mocha Joe. So he opens up a coffee shop right next door to Mocha Joe. That's competition. Every cup Larry sells is one Mocha Joe is not selling. Again, this slide was supposed to be before. But to illustrate that this world we're in right here is not about that. I mean, I know plenty of other agencies in this space. I don't see them as competitors. We're all here to help. And I just bring that up to highlight why, or to help you overcome getting out of your comfort zone. We all want to help. We all want to help. So wrapping up here, another way you want to tap into, expand your mycelium map, reach out to me. We can just chat, talk about cool stuff. I love music, scuba diving, healing stories. We can swap them, or I'm happy to share mine. Either way, if you're curious, all good. So yeah, please reach out. We'd love to meet. And that's how you can get in touch with me. Anyone here can reach out just for any kind of consultation. I also do high-level website audits where I'll look at your site. We'll go through it on a call, a live call. We do have, just full disclosure, deeper paid versions of this, but I'm happy to do it, no cost. It'll always be, I promise, in a no sales-free zone. So hopefully, my authenticity is coming through. That's I'm here to help, and these are some different ways that we can engage. So feel free to reach out.
So thank you for everyone for attending, and this video will be made available on our YouTube channel. And please do reach out to Greg. He's really a phenomenal and very good person to be working with. So thank you all for attending. If you are watching this on YouTube, please do like and subscribe our channel. So thank you, everyone.